Hello, I'm Matthew Holman, the host of the world's deadliest police chases. And this intensely dangerous car chase in Georgia started with something innocent and tiny, a window tint violation. The officer behind the wheel in this video turns on his lights to alert the driver to pull over. However, his demands go unmet by the reckless driver as his speeds start to pick up. The officer behind the wheel becomes very alarmed as the driver chooses to speed up rather than pull over. And there's no way in hell he doesn't see the officer behind him. The chase starts to get more and more intense, with the suspect in this scenario starting to gun it over 100 miles per hour. Eventually, the car starts to reach speeds of 140 miles per hour, and can be seen dangerously swerving in and out of traffic to dodge obstructions. After a while, other cars on the road start to notice the 150 mile per hour speeding bullet approaching their lane. One can only imagine the adrenaline pumping through this officer's veins as he busts through traffic to stop this maniac. After 10 minutes of this insanity, more units are called into the scene. This scenario is only getting more and more dangerous as the suspect nears his way towards city traffic at the same speed. The driver just refuses to comply with officers. Eventually, as more units catch up to the suspect brutally crashes and an ambulance is dispatched to the scene. And with this, every officer in the area jumps out of their vehicles to approach the suspect. The suspect is lucky he didn't kill anyone through his negligence. The footage of this next chase has no sound, but what it lacks in audio it makes up in visuals. This footage showcases the manhunt for an individual who is suspected to have shot 2 police officers in Dallas before fleeing the scene. The suspect is in that white truck, and funny enough, the suspect has zero clue that he's being zeroed in on by a police helicopter straight above him. Once the suspect does happen to notice the police helicopter's spotlight, it starts to rear itself off the road while driving into a field. The vehicle crashes into a gate and right after starts to book it, likely realizing that he has very little time to escape. Suddenly, an officer appears from behind the suspect, and the suspect goes into overdrive and starts driving recklessly on the sidewalk of a suburban neighborhood where children could be playing on their lawns. The danger factor of this chase gets more and more intense every poor decision the driver makes. At this point in time, around 20 or so police vehicles can be seen chasing the suspect in what appears to be the scariest scene one can witness. Eventually, the truck is stopped, and the streets are all the more safe for it. This chase started out small, but snowballed into something gigantic. The driver of this vehicle is 42-year-old Eric Brown, who fled the scene after being accused by police of beating his wife mercilessly. At this point in the chase, he's been evading cops for over an hour, and is considered an immense threat to the streets. An officer right behind the suspect attempts a pit maneuver, but unfortunately, due to the speed and density of the suspect's vehicle, the maneuver fails heavily, putting officers on even higher alert. Eventually, the suspect pulls over to the right side of the road, but officers are still very nervous about what he might pull next. Officers surround the vehicle with weapons drawn to prepare for any gunfire the suspect may attempt to pull off. Canine units are even prepared by officers. However, the suspect attempts to take off once again in an act of pure stupidity. The suspect nearly crashes into a SWAT tank, which would have been an instant death. It also swerves past other law enforcement vehicles heading its way, though it's very clear at this stage that the vehicle is on its last legs, as it stumbles to even reach 30 miles an hour. This pathetic attempt is crushed by an officer who manages to successfully pit maneuver the vehicle until it stops. The suspect is then surrounded by an absurd number of officers before he's then successfully taken into custody. This chase all started with a call complaining of a woman named Rose Becker, who is allegedly said to be going 70 miles per hour in a school zone. Note that in America, school zones require you to only go 20 miles per hour during school hours, as children are in the vicinity. The officer called to respond to the scene goes out of his way to catch up to the driver for the safety of any nearby children. The officer in this video can be seen barreling down the road at nearly 90 miles per hour, desperately trying to prevent any damages this reckless driver may cause through her sheer stupidity. Eventually, other officers can also be seen responding to the call, and eventually, they catch up to the suspect, who's in a black vehicle. After minutes of chasing the suspect refuses to comply with the more than reasonable police officers. They are chasing this vehicle at this point at a whopping 90+ miles an hour consistently. Luckily, the suspect is eventually pit maneuvered lightly by a sheriff's SUV and is confronted viciously by the responding officers. The suspect is cuffed and successfully taken into custody. The suspect is extremely lucky she didn't kill a kid, which would have been a guaranteed life sentence. This chase all started with a brutal robbery at the hands of the man driving that white vehicle. The vehicle is being recorded and tracked by a police helicopter, and the suspect can be seen going upwards of 90 miles per hour while dangerously surpassing other vehicles on the freeway. Eventually, the suspect gets trapped in by rows of stopped cars that refuse to budge. Panicked, the suspect manages to make police give chase once again. Once more, the vehicle starts going at least 100 miles an hour. The cars near the suspect get nervous and antsy as he almost crashes into civilian vehicles multiple times. However, the suspect's luck runs out as he crashes extremely hard into the back of 2 civilian vehicles. That kind of impact easily able to brutally kill any children or passengers in the back seat of those crashed into. Though in a funny twist of events, the passengers of the minivan get out and start very bravely beating the snot out of the suspect. At one point, the suspect pretty much gets body slammed by one of the badass passengers. The suspect is successfully taken into custody, and luckily, no one died. Thanks for watching the first episode of the world's deadliest police chases. Stay tuned for more and subscribe.